Thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's really great to see so many attendees. Welcome to the first One Connect webinar. This is the first one that Bluebridge One is doing. We're going to be focusing today on the NetSuite 2024.2 new release. We're going to be looking at some key highlights. Myself and my colleague Iain will be going through this with you in a bit more detail. Great, so just to introduce myself, my name is Emma Barnard. I'm one of the key account managers at Bluebridge One. I have been with Bluebridge One for nearly 8 years now, and in my role I look after the relationship between Bluebridge and NetSuite. I'm dealing with a number of customers. I have over 40 customers that I look after, and I'm going to be here for any questions kind of after the session as well if you need any additional information. I'll just hand over to Iain to do a quick introduction.
Hi, I'm Iain Murray. I've been with Bluebridge about 9 years, so I can see from the attendees a few names from current and past projects I've been involved with. So I've done a lot of work on implementation projects. I'd say my focus now is more on working across those projects as a solution architect, just to try and bring best practice and things we've learned across all of those projects. We also got Hendrik on the call. Hendrik will be helping with any question and answers as we go through, and I'll explain that. Up on the top left, you'll see like a Q&A where you can post questions. But if I just pass to Hendrik to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I recognize at least a few of the names and faces. Looking forward to this. For those that don't know me, I'm Hendrik de Ridder. I've been with Bluebridge One now for 7 years, originally as a implementation consultant, currently as pre-sales consultant. And yes, I will try to answer any questions that you pop for us in the Q&A.
Great. So just before we start to go over a quick agenda with you, so we're going to be talking about how Bluebridge One approaches each new release. So we have quite a unique approach, and we pull on all our resources and our teams to go through the new releases and pull out the best bits. And then we're going to move on to probably the reason why most of you are here today. Iain has gone through the new release, and he's pulled out the highlights and a few of the ones to just keep an eye on that's coming out in the new release and potentially in future releases as well. And then we're going to hand back over to me, and I'm going to go through. There's been a few new user types that you may not be aware of that have been released by NetSuite over the last few months. So I'm just going to cover those off. And if we've got time at the end, we may have some questions. But what we will be doing, any questions that you've popped in the Q&A box, we will be taking those and putting those into an email format, which we'll send out to you after the session today as well. So before we start, can I just take a moment to have a look at our safe harbour statement, please? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So firstly, as Emma introduced, so we do have a approach for our new releases, and really what we're looking to do is just kind of pick out those highlights. But before we get into that, just as a reminder what the NetSuite upgrade process is. So the upgrades happen twice a year, and what you should get is emails, admin notifications to tell you when those are due. And with those upgrades come quite a variety of different enhancements and new features, as well as some new Suite apps as well. What you will get is a release preview environment that's available to you, where you can do testing and preview these functions as well. So 2024.2, that's what we're in the middle of now. And I would say that at the moment we're in that kind of phase 4. So customers are put into those phases. and that depends on the timing, you know, so phase 1 will be the first to change, etc., right up to phase 4. So I think at the moment there'll be quite a lot of you that are on 2024.2, but like I say, phase 4 is still in motion. And just to go back to the release preview account that you can use, that is something that's changed. It was about a few years ago, but it is something now that you have to opt into. So if you do need to or want to go in and look at the new features or do some testing, then through that link there under Setup Company Release Preview, that's where you can opt in, and then you'll be given, within quite a short amount of time, you'll be given access to a release preview account that you can try some of these things out. Okay, so that's just a bit of background on NetSuite's process. So now on to how we approach NetSuite. So as Emma kind of summarized, what we try and do is use all our subject matter experts. So within Bluebridge, we have centers of excellence and focus groups, and they will specialize on things like warehouse management, finance, things like that. So we take the the official release notes and we attend the NetSuite webinars to really dive into the detail for each new release. And then with that, primarily for looking at customer impact, we kind of organize and look for the good bits in there, because as you imagine, there's quite a lot in those release documents. But what we're really trying to do is bring out, you know, feature enhancements that can bring a potential benefit to customers. And we also want to kind of share the new features that have potentially have some potential in now or future. And to try and make that more highlighted in terms of, you know, which are the best and which are the ones for the future, we have got an easy scoring just so that you can communicate which ones to particularly look out for. And you'll see that as we go through each of the aspects of the new release. So we score things as 5 if they're real game changers. So this will be where, as a team, we've deemed these as being significant or transformative. 4 will be a useful improvement on current functionality, something that just makes the process easier or more visible, something like that. And then the 3s are ones to keep an eye on. So, I mean, with NetSuite, what you might find is that they bring something out just as a taster, as a starter. It might be one of the new 360 apps or something like that. And it's maybe just quite basic to start with, but it kind of communicates the direction NetSuite's going on and hints at some future functionality as well. So like I said, on all of the points and highlights that I'll be going through, you'll see that scoring 5, 4, 3 against them, which is, you know, how we've kind of graded each of these improvements. Okay, so just to go through at a high level what I'll be covering in the enhancements. So this is basically a very condensed version of the new release. So we'll be covering some warehouse management and one-ship changes, manufacturing, procurement, SuiteBilling. There's a few on SuiteBilling, admin features, and then we'll also just touch on SuiteWorld 2024, which was a couple of weeks ago, and there's a few things there that are worth keeping an eye on. And then once we're through those, then I'll be passing back to Emma to look at the new user types as well. Okay, so now to get into the main content. The first thing we'll cover is those WMS enhancements, and this is the WMS warehousing module and the mobile app. That's where these all kind of center around. And so the first one that we think is a significant change is the ability to schedule bin replenishments. Previously, you could manage bin replenishments looking at min-maxes, but you couldn't just schedule them to run to then give your warehouse staff on their mobile tasks to action to do that replenishment. So now with 2024.2, gives you the ability, and that's what's on the screen there, to kind of create a bin replenishment schedule. So within the menu under WMS bin replenishments, you'll see a new option, schedule bin replenishments, and that's where you can set set up this kind of schedule here. So that, like I said, that should make it much more efficient in terms of making sure stock's where it needs to be. And then the next one, which is a good improvement, is the ability to highlight WMS tasks on the mobile. This is like the SCM mobile app for WMS. So what you can do with this is, you could then give your mobile users the ability to see what your urgent orders are. And what you do is you set up under set up custom mobile applications. You can set up these conditions like I'm showing on the screen there to have different colors for different conditions, and then the user will understand what those conditions are. So what that would look like if I just switch to the mobile app is that they would see a list of items, and that could be orders, any kind of table of data, and what they'll see is some kind of color coding just to highlight information to them on top of what information that they see. So that's quite a useful visual guide on top of just the standard data there. And then the final one is just the ability to change bins during picking. And this will probably, if you're using WMS, this would seem like a bit of a, and finally they've done it kind of enhancement, because it was a bit cumbersome. So previously, if you had needed to pick an item and you needed to pick it from multiple bins, it was quite a multi-step process where you had to pick a task and then close it and then start again. Well, that's been changed now by NetSuite. So even if you have to pick an item from multiple bins, you can do that within the same task. So it just makes it more efficient. And like I say, it's something, it's the way you would hope for it to be done, but nevertheless it's a good enhancement with WMS. So related to the WMS side, we also have our OneShip product, which some of you will have. And OneShip, what it does, it kind of streamlines the fulfillment and integration to carriers. So it kind of sits within your pick, pack, ship process. So what you can do is when it comes to ship, you can book your fulfillment with one of the carriers, and it can print the labels, et cetera, and then bring tracking back. And alongside the 2024.2 release, there's been 3 new features that have been brought out. The ability for direct handheld printing, and we've also, across 2 territories, South Africa and UK, we've added new carriers. So in South Africa, that's the Courier Guy, and in the UK, that's Royal Mail. So those, again, that's showing our continued enhancements to the OneShip product. Okay, so now on to some manufacturing changes. This one is around the lot auto numbering suite app, which has been around. So the lot auto numbering app isn't new. That has been out for a little while. But one change with the 2024.2 release is that you can now auto number from the mobile app. So just to talk about this auto numbering app, what you can do is you can come up and structure lot number formats. So with the app installed, under the lists menu, you'll see an option for lot auto numbering, and then you can create these formats. But the addition now with 2024.2 is that you'll see this highlighted button here. So you'll see generate new lot. So clicking that button will then generate, based on that format, will generate that lot number for you, whereas previously you couldn't do that on the mobile. So that just makes it a bit more seamless for the users that are processing certain things on the mobile app, and means they don't have to then go into the main NetSuite platform to do lot numbering. So that's good. Also related to manufacturing is the Supply 360 Suite app. So this is another Suite app that's available through suiteapp.com, or you can click the link on your menu taskbar. And what that does is that just gives you some clear visibility on shortages as well as mitigation plans. So it's kind of like a dashboard in a way. And you might have seen these 360s in several areas of NetSuite now. And there's a couple more that I'll be showing later. So we've seen Cash 360, for example. So this is just another one of those, and it can just show you, as you can see on the screen there, shortages by work order, shortages by component. So it's just a way of just getting that full 360 view of what's going on from a supply chain perspective, particularly around work order shortages. So now one that's one to watch, definitely one to watch. This is only available as far as we're aware in the US at the moment. But it does suggest some useful functionality that hopefully will come to other regions as well. And it's a bit like a punch-out catalog is one phrase that's normally used for things like this. I've termed it an integrated supplier catalog. So as you can see from the screen, what it hints to is that from within the NetSuite environment, you can directly place order for materials on other suppliers or other trading platforms, I should say, that are trading partners that are on the platform. So rather than going, let's say, onto Amazon Business, placing an order and then raising a PO or raising an expense account, you can trigger that kind of activity from within NetSuite. And what it's using is the Oracle Business Network. I can't remember what it used to be called because it's changed its name, or OBN, you might see it. So what it is NetSuite is through that network connecting various trading partners together. It was announced as well as in the release notes. They did speak about it in Suite World as well. And so if I just go back, the only two that were announced were Staples and Amazon Business. But with our account managers, we're just trying to stay current on any availability on this product as to what it will bring and when it will be available. But potentially it can be, especially if you're doing a lot of overhead purchases, for example, it could be quite a useful time saver. So one to watch. Okay, so then another 360, and this one is a one to watch as well, because it'll be interesting to see, how it develops and what more we can get from it. So the benchmark 360, it's there to kind of try and show you how you are in comparison to other companies in your industry and location. So this is one, if you installed it, all you would have to do is select your industry, select your location, and then you would have a dashboard like this. And so for each industry location, it will show you some key metrics like days cash on hand, days sales outstanding, and those would be tailored depending on your industry, for example. And this will just show you in each one of these boxes kind of where you are versus where the market is. I've tried this, and it's not customizable, and there's only a limited standard number of KPIs. But I think it would be worth just installing. I think it would vary by industry, location, combination as to how much you can get from it. But again, this is just a new Suite app. I think this changes some of the other previous offerings from NetSuite on a similar type of thing. But the good news with this one is that it can use your data within the system. Okay, so on to the next one. This is some enhancements with SuiteBilling, and like I said earlier, this was one area that got quite a lot of attention in this release. So WMS had quite a few changes, and I'd say SuiteBilling is the second area that got some quite significant changes. And just to pick out probably the key one from the list there, it is the fulfillable items are now available to be part of that SuiteBilling subscription. And that's probably more common across our customer base. So, SuiteBilling isn't just selling a managed service or selling a software license or something. We more commonly see it as part of a wider scope of sale that includes devices and things like that. So having them all wrapped up now under one contract just opens it up as in terms of the use cases where it can be applied. And then the ones above that are good enhancements, and they kind of put SuiteBilling where it should be, really. So for example, the subscription pricing detail and charge on invoices, that's really what you need. You want to be able to share with your customer what you're charging them for, and have some detail on there. So I think this makes SuiteBilling a more viable option, I'd say, probably for a wider scope of customers now than previously, just with these 4 main upgrades. It's not the only NetSuite solution for SuiteBilling, but it's good to see the investment in it to kind of, like I say, to kind of enhance it, to make it more relevant, and also open it up to more use cases as well. So that's why that one's got a 5, because I think it is a significantly better option now. Okay, so now on to a whole bunch of kind of general administrative upgrades. Some of them more higher scored than others. So the first one is really, again, just a taster. So that's why it's only been marked as a 3. And it's a new UI option, which they've called Redwood. And you'll see Redwood mentioned a lot in NetSuite literature going forward. It's part of their whole new UI and user experience. But it is available now on 2024.2, kind of a new look and feel. But it's very early days. It's just a taster, I think, of what's going to come. So you can have a look at it under Home Preferences. And then on the Appearances tab, you'll just have a button, and you can enable it and disable it. But if I show the next screen, which is very small, I realize, but you'll see it's not totally revolutionized the way the UI looks. So this here is a bill. You've still got header information, you've still got the sub-tabs, and then the item data underneath. But it's just a first step, I think. There's a lot of investment going into a new UI with NetSuite, and this is just to get people using it. Every small step helps, especially if people are using it to debug the way they're heading. So it's good to see, albeit a small move in that direction. But you do see hints of the new interface in some of the other newer Suite apps. So this is an example as well. Actually, it's not a Suite app, it's just something that will be there. So that's a mistake. So another one of these 360s is a customer 360. And if you are upgraded to 2024.2, you'll see this as an option now. So when you're looking at a customer, you would have seen like a customer dashboard link. So next to that now, you'll also see a customer 360 link, which if you press, you'll see a screen like the one I'm sharing. So the what it shows, it's not as configurable like the customer dashboard is, but it shows you some basic contact information, based on some fundamental stats like how long they've been a customer, when they last purchased, top selling items, and it'll also just show their sales performance and recent transactions. What I imagine is that this will start to enrich to become more like the customer dashboard. So again, it's a hint of maybe things for the future, but it is a different perspective on customers that might be more suited to how you want to digest the information. And then the final one is an AI functionality, which again was a focus of SuiteWorld, as you can imagine. Quite a few new UI features that they're releasing. And what the change was is that for the UK now, the AI text enhance has been released. So with with the AI text, it is using kind of AI language models, and it can create some descriptions for you automatically based off of data, but it can also enhance the text. So as you can see there, as well as the kind of the generate option, it can clean it up, make it longer, make it shorter. So localization wise, they've recently released that for the UK. Okay, so one other thing around kind of general admin is analytics. So with the workbook functionality, you never used to be able to export pivot tables as pivot tables. You always had the option to export it to a CSV file and just get the kind of the flat data, but not the ability to display it as a pivot. So whenever you're looking at a pivot table now in analytics, in an analytics workbook, you'll see that option that I've highlighted there to export it to an SX file. And so when you export that data, you will see it as it was presented in the same way in the workbook. It doesn't export it as a pivot table in NetSuite. It's just what you see here is just the raw data, so you don't get that plus the detail. But this is just a nice way of just presenting it straight out of the workbook. So it's just a good way to share your workbook data above and beyond what was there before. Okay, so then also on admin, there were a few admin notifications around changes, technology platform changes. And with each of these, which are kind of integrations related, there should have been emails that were sent out. So the details of these were in the release notes, but you should have also had email notification through NetSuite as well on these. I've added them in here really just because they are important before you upgrade, that those are at least made note of, because they may require some changes to the system. Okay, so that's the end of the functionality for 2024.2. But just to, other than users, which Emma will be showing later, but before we hand over, I'll just go through a few things that came up on SuiteWorld, which I said was back in September, early September. And with the ones that I share, what we'll be doing is we'll be working with NetSuite to understand availability. So these are points which were discussed in SuiteWorld, but again, our account managers are working with our NetSuite contacts just to understand when these things are going to be coming available. But there are three things that picked out that I thought were of particular interest. So the first one was finance exception reporting, and it looks like this would be the kind of tool you can use to kind of quicken month-end troubleshooting. It is a AI-based tool, so it's showing some of that functionality coming into NetSuite, and it's highlighting things that are outside of the norm, essentially. So it will look at all of the transactions, and it will look at the history of those transactions. For example, journals you raise each month, or monthly bills you have with a particular supplier each month, and what accounts they go to. It will look at all those things, and it will look for those exceptions to report to you, just to give you that path to easily highlight them and resolve them, rather than through other methods and long reconciliations identifying them. So the one highlighted there is an example of an invoice which had an amount that's 63% higher than similar transactions in the past. So it's just telling you what it's detected, it's telling you what's expected, it's giving you the history. And then you've got the option to either review it, resolve it, or say, no, I understand why that's the case, and say no actions needed. So I think that's quite a good tool that we'll be looking forward to. The second one, which did get a lot of attention during SuiteWorld, and there were some long videos around the future of the Redwood UX, as they've called it. But one thing I think that I picked out of it that's maybe more tangible is the natural language driven analytics. And what I saw is just this change that I've highlighted there. So where the global search is now, what you see there is something that says Ask Oracle. And that's really the prompt that they're trying to go to with this Redwood UX, is that rather than kind of going to report, you're just going to ask Oracle, you know, what you want, and it will kind of give you an answer. So there's a couple of examples here. Ask Oracle, the question is, which products sold most over the weekend? And then it would kind of give you some of that data to show you what the top 3 were. A second example there about inventory. So it's trying to be like a self-service analytics tool. So rather than going to an admin and asking them to build that safe search or build that report so you can see, you can just simply ask Oracle. And I think that's a big thing with the Redwood UX. That's where it's trying to go. It's trying to make the interaction with the ERP more natural and language-based. And then a final one, which was announced, was SuiteProcurement Pro. And this is one we're asking about. So what we do know is that, you know, there was a product that was separate from NetSuite called Open Air, which was like a project PSA-based product from NetSuite. And this is like a version 2 of that. But what we're trying to find out is, well, as well as its availability, but also, you know, is it an enhancement to SuiteProcurement, where SuiteProcurement is that kind of ERP functionality? Is it still a separate product? So we're trying to get some more information around the implementation and also the interactivity with kind of NetSuite ERP on that. But there were a lot of enhancements that were announced in terms of how this would look, and including kind of AI-based things. So, for example, it through AI would suggest the correct resources for you rather than you filtering for things and then it kind of giving you suggestions. So, big change to the UI and some other changes in from an AI perspective as well. But once we find out some more information, then we'll be able to share that more. Okay, so that's Suite World, but just one last new small feature update that kind of crept out. I think it wasn't on the new release and it wasn't on Suite World. I think it was just on maybe one of the weekly scheduled hot fixes or something like that. But it's relating to this lovely icon here, which is very useful for some roles, but for others it's just in the way. And before there was just a preference, you either had it on or you had it off. But thankfully now you can, through your set preferences, you can go into the general tab, and then there's a button there to decide whether you want to see that guided learning or not. So I think that would be just a useful thing, because quite a lot of users, I think, wouldn't be using that button. It's more for kind of admin and people that are learning about NetSuite more. So yeah, that was just a quick final tip. And now I'll just hand over to Emma, who's just going to go through some of the other key changes with 2024.2 around new user types.
Great, thanks for that, Ian, and thanks for that tip as well. I definitely used that as soon as you showed it to me. So yeah, thank you. If you could go to the next slide, Ian. Lovely. Yes, so with the new release, there's been 3 new NetSuite user types that have been released also. These pretty much do what they say on the tin. There's a new NetSuite CRM only user. So this is ideal for your sales reps, marketing. If you are using support through NetSuite, this would be a user that you potentially look at using instead of a full user. The other one, now there's obviously a prerequisite for this. You need to be using NetSuite WMS, but this is the NetSuite WMS specialist user. and this is ideal for anyone that is needing just purely warehouse functionality. So whether it's your pick, pack and ship or managing and tracking stock. So that's a nice new enhancement as well. And the third one is the view and approve role. So this is, again, it pretty much says what it does on the tin. Its use cases are for viewing reports, access to dashboards and save searches, and it's ideal for executives or auditors, or anyone that needs to view and approve within NetSuite but doesn't need that full functionality. Something around these, so just around the costings for these. So the NetSuite CRM user and the WMS user, these are sold on a single, like, individual user basis, and they're at around 80% of a full user license. And the view and approve roles, these are similar to the employee center roles or the self-service roles. They are sold in packs of 5, and they are also around 80% of the full user license. One thing that I really want to highlight around these user types is that they do not count towards your service tiers. So if you are, some of you may be in conversations at the minute with NetSuite around needing to upgrade tiers based around users, these are potentially licenses that you could look at, because they will not impact towards that 100 user limit. Thanks, Ian. Lovely. So thank you again, everyone, for joining today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, this is our first One Connect webinar. This is something that's been in the works for quite a while now, that we've wanted to bring the conversations that we're having internally and the learning that we are doing internally to our customers and to the wider NetSuite user base. So as part of this One Connect will be a webinar series that we're hoping to carry on for as long as we possibly can. So the next webinar to keep an eye out for is going to be on the 5th of December, and that will be hosted by one of the senior consultants, Roy, and that's looking into Suite Tax and an overview on Suite Tax. So you should have hopefully seen a few emails going out already around that one, to sign up for that one. The next one, so after the Christmas break, we will be really digging into the service tiers, as I mentioned previously, unpacking what those service tiers are, and around optimizing your performance. So that will be hosted by Hanley, and a few of you may be familiar with her, but we've got some really great insight there on ways to optimize your NetSuite as well. And then scheduled for February already, that we will be doing a deep dive around NetSuite Analytics, the different options and modules and ways to use NetSuite and the analytics bolt-ons as well. So really excited about those, and you'll be seeing communication over the next couple of months. One thing that we'll also be doing around this is hopefully publishing a calendar on the website. So we've got a new website that's launched recently as well, so we should be publishing a calendar on there, so you will be able to register for any topics that you find of interest, and also there should be links to previous webinars that you may not have been able to attend as well. So great, thank you. Thanks, Ian. So before we finish the session today, I just want to highlight that if there is anything that you have found of particular interest today, or anything that you would like a little bit more information around, please reach out to either myself or Esther, my colleague. You may already know who your account manager is if you are an existing customer. If you are unsure, please visit our website. There is a chat to us link in there, so you can always submit a request through there, and then your details will be passed either to myself or Esther to get in touch with you. And before we finish the session, I just want to say a big thank you again for attending. If you watch it back or think of any questions or anything after the session, again, please reach out to us. We're here to help. and assist you wherever we can. So thank you very much.